So right before he goes out to the public, they take away more of his humanity. They take away nearly all of his emotions before the press conference. So now Murphy is literally a lifeless machine. I feel like there's no more like man versus machine concept. Now it's just lifeless machine. He goes out there. He's very, his voice is very robot-like. And I feel like that's another thing that didn't nail this movie, dude. When he talks, it just feels like a human talking very monotone. Yeah. There's not like a lot of like effects added to it. And that's what really tied together the Peter Weller voice in the original Robocop. Because it doesn't sound like Alex Murphy. He doesn't sound human. He has like enough effects to his voice where the delivery really sounds artificial. You know what I mean?
And there was no good Alex Murphy lines to call back. There was no dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Nothing. There was absolutely nothing where they could have like even called
Come
back
quietly or there will be trouble.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
All the lines that would be potentially memorable are regurgitated lines. He says, dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
He says, thank you for cooperation.
Thank you for your cooperation.
They just regurgitate fucking, he said the line, he said the thing.
It rings hollow because Murphy never even said them to begin with. So
yeah. Or later on he says, what does he say? He says, what is this, good cop, bad cop? No, good cop, Robocop.
Like good cop, bad cop?
Nah, Daniels. Bad cop, Robocop.
Fuck off. That was so cheesy. Good cop, Robocop.
Ah, fuck you.
Oh yeah, well, him and Lewis said, I was like, oh
yeah.
No.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
You're supposed to be a badass. You're supposed to be able to kill people.
I wrote down, so what was the point in making him more human before all of this if you're just going to take it away? And then he has to work up that, he has to work in that direction to get his humanity back again. Isn't it easier to go from humanity taken away, now we have to find his humanity, versus human, you're still human, now it's taken away, and now there's the idea of man coming back from taking over the machine kind of thing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess they had to kind of de-emotion him so that it gave them somewhere to go with the family, because otherwise there was no need for them. It would have been just like the original, the family just disappears and Robocop gets to do what Robocop needs to do.
They were definitely trying to give the family more to do in this movie, which could have been cool. But I almost think that the family kind of works better in smaller doses, like less is more type thing in this situation. We get the award for dumbest criminal ever in this scene. There's a guy in the crowd. So you're gonna have this super cop revealed to the public, and you've been a criminal for, I think they say like 2 decades. He's been on the run. He's a fucking criminal mastermind and a rapist. And you're just gonna show up and be like, oh, I want to see this new super cop. I'm fucking nowhere near there, dude.
Today.
Yeah. Let me go to an area where there's like hundreds and hundreds of cops for this super cop reveal. No. Go hide in a fucking cave somewhere where you've been.
There's police, there's video cameras, there's news, there's fucking everybody's there. There's no way you're hiding from anyone.
Immediately he's like, Thomas King, you're under arrest. And, he shoots him with his fucking stun gun. Imagine how cool it would have been if he fucking like blew his head off right in front of the public.
Well, that would have been the glitch from the beginning of the first of the original.
That could have been like the Mr. Kinney glitch equivalent scene of like, you have to explain to the public.
Somebody call this guy an ambulance.
Somebody want to call a goddamn paramedic?
He's dead, bro. He's fucking dead. So then after that, we get another news break. It would have been better if we had more people involved in the media, because all we get is Samuel L. Jackson's perspective, like his character's perspective, as the media's opinion. His tainted, artificial, obviously paid by Omnicorp's perspective. And I think it could have been interesting if there was more to it than just him.
They tried to bring Sellers in at one point. They had Dreyfus on like a little hologram, but it didn't really have that kind of punch that it needed.
We finally get, it's over an hour into the movie, more than halfway done, and we get our first scene of like Robocop actually fighting criminals, fighting bad guys, and arresting people.
The motorcycle looked badass.
But that's more that's Dark Knight right there, dude.
Oh god, it's very much the Dark
You know what I
Knight
mean?
cycle.
Looks like the Batpod. It looks like a fucking Nolan movie.
Very much so.
But I will give it to the movie when it comes to the action scenes. I think the action scenes are done very well. They're shot well. I think, like I said, I think an R rating could have done this movie a lot of favors, which is having those like that extra punch in the action scenes where just like there's more gore, there's a head getting blown off every now and again, there's something like super violent. There's one scene that it kind of pays homage to the cocaine factory scene where like he's like shooting up here and he's shooting over there and he's shooting over there and taking bad guys out all over the place, and you see his targeting system and stuff. So that scene's done well. I think it's kind of, if you've seen the original, it's like it's done better. But as far as action scenes go, it's good. It's not groundbreaking or anything.
No, definitely not groundbreaking in any way, but yeah, as far
not
as
bad at
action
all.
scenes go, it was not the worst action scene in the movie.
This movie suffers because like you don't want to like compare the movie like only to the original, but when you have something that was so groundbreaking and different when it came out, that like this movie, unless you do something different and nail it, it's gonna live in its shadow. Robo goes home. One of the cool scenes in the original is like when Robo goes home and he's walking through the abandoned house and everything, and he goes home and they almost do like a Arkham Asylum like detective type thing. Did you play the Arkham games?
Yes.
When you're like solving the crimes
All
and
the
you're like
different
piecing it
crimes
together.
Looking for clues and scanning this.
Exactly. So he goes home and like he's standing in the driveway where his car was blown up, and he's using like different surveillance cameras from around his house, and he pieces together his murder. It's not as emotionally impactful as the original scene, but that kind of sets off him going to solve his own murder, just like the original.
I enjoyed him putting together at least like the crime scene for himself. But again, like you didn't need to go through and play like, oh, the son's reaction and go through all of that, and like the wife's reaction and go through all of that. And Even from the surveillance of his body blown up, it didn't even look all that bad.
Did you notice he got the surveillance camera footage, but when he actually watched it in his head, it was the same view that we saw, like shot as the movie? And we get another cool action scene, which is like, again, it's kind of like the warehouse scene, but this time it's in like a first-person shooter like angle. The whole scene is mainly like shot from like his perspective or the villain's perspective shooting back, and like they turn all the lights off before he enters. And so they have the goggles on and they're both kind of fighting each other with like thermal vision on.
That was one of the decent scenes. I was like, okay, we're gonna actually get some action in this movie.
So again, like tipping my hat to the action, but I feel like they're getting Robocop wrong. Like
very much so.
They're kind of like making sure they have that cool action scene every 15, 20 minutes or so. But the stuff in between it feels like it's just filler to get to the next action scene. But the filler shouldn't be the emotional drama part of the movie. That's what made Robocop cool. That's what made Robocop great. It wasn't the action scenes, it was the stuff in between. And the way the emotions and the drama hit, that made the action mean something, because you really wanted to see him kill Clarence Bodiger. You wanted to see him get revenge on Dick Jones. Like you wanted to see like whatever was happening. Like you wanted to see the Ed 209 stuff, because all that stuff was established earlier on in the movie. This just feels like they're all nameless bad guys he's fighting.
There's a lot of moving pieces in this movie that didn't need to be there. And it definitely kind of muddied the water as far as having a more coherent story that really kind of flows, where you end up wanting to really care for Murphy the way we're supposed to.
In the original, you want to see Robocop get his hands on Clarence Bodiger. Did you give a fuck that he finally got to kill Antoine Vallon in very anticlimactic?
I don't.
In a very anticlimactic way. No,
doing that.
No, he just kind of shoots him from 20 feet away and walks up to his body, and it says, he scans his life sense or whatever, and just says deceased. This guy like had attempted murder on you. Clarence Bodiger got a data spike to the fucking neck. And bled everywhere.
if you're supposed to be this inside guy with all these dirty cops, with all this access, they killed him off like he was a low level bad guy.
But I think if you were gonna try to make this guy the Clarence Boddicker of the movie, you would have like done more with him. But like you said earlier, that's kind of the problem with this movie. There's so many people that are spread so thin that everything is muddy. He kills Antoine Vallon, right? And he scans the gun and he can lift fingerprints off the gun through his Arkham Asylum scanner thing.
Scan feature.
Through his detective mode, he can pick up fingerprints. I guess you just accept it and move along.
I guess you could put a bullet back together with said fingerprint still on the clip if you really wanted to.
I always thought that scene was really stupid in The Dark Knight. Now that you mentioned that, that's like the one thing I hate from that fucking movie is them piecing together the bullet
just for a thumbprint.
Yeah.
Gonna take ballistics off a shattered bullet?
No. Fingerprints.
We find out the police chief was working with Vallon for reasons.
I started to catch on to that when she was getting very concerned that he was always breaking his protocol.
Yeah.
He was going off and doing his own thing. Oh, Robocop's up. Hey, someone go pay attention to Robocop. He's doing. It's mind your own business. He's on your team. Like, why are you all up in his jammy? But then it made more sense because you find out she's been the one who's selling out the weapons, and
right before he's about to execute her, most likely, Maddox and Sellers shut him down. He just falls to the ground. Sellers offers Dr. Norton more money because earlier in the movie, money has.
It's a shame he's going to turn down this money because he doesn't like money at all.
Yeah, so he offers him 10 more years of funding to a guy who's already fucking rich, like we established, in order to kind of just look the other way while Maddox goes to the lab and kills Robocop. He says, like, eventually what would stop him from talking to the press.
And once he finds out what they did to him, there's no reason why he wouldn't.
So they want to tie up loose ends, and they'd rather have Robocop dead. Norton rushes back to the lab, and he helps Murphy escape.
So I guess he's not getting paid all this money now because since he's not looking the other way.
No. He's like, I already have my own money. I don't want your dirty money. I already have your dirty money. He explains to his wife and to the public that he had a psychotic break, passed away. He's now in critical condition for. Right. We know it. We know that it's for it's bullshit, but he's in critical condition, and he explains to his wife and to the public that Murphy had a psychotic break and passed away.
The robot is still like moving, but the Murphy part of Murphy is dead.
The human part of Murphy has died, but the robot part is malfunctioning.
And we still can't shut it down because it's our robot. But once the human was gone, we lost all control over our own robot.
Robocop heads to the Omnicorp building to arrest Sellers because now he knows that Sellers is responsible for it. We haven't seen an Ed 209 since the fucking intro scene, and we finally see Ed 209 again. And again, we get a cool action scene. He's fighting like 5 of them in this scene.
I liked when he jumped through the glass and he's like hiding under the legs of one of them and like using that to shoot the other one from a distance. And there's some cool shit in there.
You're kind of still treating the Ed 209s like dumb grunts, which is cool because that's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, they get used properly.
So Lewis saves Robocop. He has a red asset bracelet on, and he jumps in front of Murphy before he's about to get finished off by an Ed 209. And the Ed 209 stops firing because you can't shoot a red asset.
Fire on a red asset.
So he helps Murphy escape, and then Maddox gets the drop on him, and Lewis shoots Maddox. And now Maddox is dead. For our final climax, we get to the helicopter pad on the roof of the building, and Sellers is there for some reason with his whole legal team, which I always kind of found weird.
Again, they couldn't travel around without each other. They all knew too much information, so they all had to keep an eye on each other just in case someone did go squealing. So
then he's up there with his wife and his son, and he gets up there
because they had to show up for the end of the movie. They weren't in enough of the fucking thing.
Yeah, and they're on the roof of the building. There's no wind. Their hair's not like in the wind or anything. It's
a helicopter approaching. It's fine.
So he attempts to arrest Sellers, but he can't because he's wearing a red asset bracelet also. This is kind of like Directive 4, where you can't like arrest an Omnicorp or an OCP executive in the first, like in the original. This one, you can't arrest someone with the red asset bracelet on. So it's kind of like the same thing. He goes like, well, you better cuff me then, just like Dick Jones did.
And he's got the, keep these bracelets on, you're completely safe.
So just like in the original, he attempts to override his programming, but where he failed in the original and he couldn't, he does just for reasons, for his love of his family, I guess.
There's enough human inside of him to save his wife and son.
Sellers is pointing the gun at him, and he's like, I could have killed you at any point in time. And he's like, I can just point my gun at your family right here. And then he is trying to get his gun up to shoot Sellers. And he says, dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
You couldn't have said something else.
They waited way too long to say that.
Yeah.
It didn't.
And it doesn't hit. It doesn't hit, man. It's just the line. He said it. Another one.
That was the big one. They said the big line.
In a very anticlimactic way, he kills Sellers, and now his family is saved. Robocop gets shot in the process also, which, he's taken like so many goddamn fucking bullets in the whole movie. A bunch of Ed 209 rounds. He fights like 3 warehouses full of like 30 or 40 fucking bad guys, and Sellers shoots him in the chest, and he just falls back. It's a pistol. He shoots him with a pistol. It's not like it's a rocket launcher or something. It's a fucking pistol.
It's really, really sturdy metal that can't withstand bullet holes.
I hate to keep comparing it, but you have to. So when Dick Jones gets killed, he can't conquer Directive 4, but the old man fires Dick, and he goes, thank you, and then he shoots him like 30 fucking times. Just brah, 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 brah. Falls through a window, he's fucking dead. Sellers gets one shot. There's like a little bit of blood you see in the background.
Barely.
Yeah.
How are you going to remake a Paul Van Hoven film and not give all the blood that you can possibly put in there?
Because they wanted the PG-13 rating, hoping that they would make enough money to make a franchise out of this. But guess what? Guess what happened? It bombed. Didn't make its money back. And there was no sequel. I feel like this movie is only remembered because it's a bad remake. But I feel like even if it was just its own movie, it would have just been another run-of-the-mill action movie that would have been forgotten. So either way, it was screwed.
They took something creative and didn't add anything extra creative to it. So it kind of just fell flat on that. Okay, it's the nostalgia of Robocop, but that was about it.
So you weren't ballsy enough to fully develop your new ideas. So if you don't do that, you got to kind of rely on the nostalgia factor of like just kind of upping the ante of what you already know of the previous original, but then you don't deliver there either.
Yeah, they definitely lowered the bar by trying to make it PG-13 because they weren't able to do as much with it.
His suit gets all fucked up in the final scene. So the next scene we see the doctor bringing back the original silver suit from earlier in the movie. So like you get the cool suit, the better suit back, which is, a plus, but the movie's over now, so it doesn't really even matter. It's just kind of like teasing the possibility of like, there's going to be another one, and this is the suit he'll be wearing. Wink, wink, even though it's not going to happen. But you had a chance to end with like him hugging his family or something, showing emotion with like, his wife and his son seeing him actually being like human again and not having any protocols to like take away some of his characteristics and take away some of his emotions and his consciousness and all that stuff. But they just close the door.
Big time.
You just close the door and you don't see like them like embrace each other. And then the movie ends with a final news break. Samuel L. Jackson drops the Samuel L. Jackson motherfucker line when he's talking about the doctor, which is funny, but they bleeped it out. Like you couldn't get one F-bomb in the fucking movie.
That's the king of F-bombs, and at one point he goes, "This is horseshit," and I wrote in my notes, "I agree, Samuel L. Jackson. This movie was horseshit."
So if we had Samuel L. Jackson to come as a guest star for his take on this remake, it would be this.
A huge, hot, heaping pile of horse.
We agree with you, Samuel L. Jackson. We agree with you.
We affirm this message.
And that was Robocop 2014, man. Is it really that bad? No. But it's also not that great either.
If you're not comparing it to the first one, then it's not bad. If you're comparing it to the first one, it's a garbage truck full of dog shit falling off a cliff into a dumpster fire.
It had a great cast, but they were all underused. No memorable villains, lack of emotion. The worst trait you can get from a movie is being forgettable.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is. I think with the original, what got you in the door was the word of mouth of hearing about how bloody and gory this movie is and how awesome the action scenes are. But then once you're in the door, you get the emotional drama part and you're like, okay, this is amazing because it's something that I didn't even know was there. Yeah. And all that stuff that I was told about the shootout scenes and the murders and the brutality are there, but there's actual substance to it. So you attempt to remake a masterpiece, in my opinion, and it's one of those movies, like we said earlier, that should not be touched, and it's just left alone. And you fucked around and you found out.
Let us know down in the comments, what do you think what's on your list of movies that should never be touched for a remake?
That's a good question.
Back to the Future. I'm throwing that one out there.
Yes,
should never
that's
be touched.
That's been attempted, but so far it has not happened. Thank God.
They made it a musical, and I'll give it that. That was awesome. So
that's fine. It's not like a Hollywood release. It's Goodfellas should never get redone.
Never.
Oh man, imagine if they made Goodfellas the musical.
Dance the fucking drink back here.
Oh.
Dance, Yahoo, you motherfucker!
It's underwhelming and forgettable. So on that note, let's forget about it.
Let's walk away from this.
Let's walk away from this. So on that note, I'd like to thank you guys for hanging out with us for a little bit and checking out this video. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And for myself,
and me,
and Leo, till the next time, guys, later.
Catch you next time.